Hi, I'm Jenny. Welcome to my channel. I will just start off by saying I am a hot mess today. Something of a hot mess. Very, very sleep deprived. So I have two little boys, one's 3, one's 6, and they've both gone overseas. They left yesterday with their dad. So I won't see them for nearly a month. And it's interesting because, I had so many friends sort of say, what are you going to do while they're gone? How are you going to cope? And I was like, what are you talking about? I have so much. I have a list this long of things I'm going to do. I'm going to finish my script. I'm working on a script with a friend at the moment. I said I'm going to finish it. I can play piano for hours, guitar, I can sing, without being interrupted. That's my dance floor over there. I can dance. I'm going to see my friends, just so many things. Draw, whatever. I was actually quite excited about it. I know I'm going to see them again, and I've never been away from them before, but I was so excited. It was like everybody knew me better than I knew myself, because I've had like a ton of messages come in this morning, and everyone's like, how are you feeling? And I thought I'd be saying I feel wonderful, and I actually don't. I barely slept. Haven't brushed my hair, but I will be doing that shortly after finishing this video. I just wanted to post this video first because I had a feeling that if I left it till much later, I'd probably find a reason not to do it. And just cry into a bowl of ice cream or something. No, that's not true. I don't particularly like ice cream. Okay, so the message that I wanted to share today is actually a message that I received weeks ago. So I did say in my second last post, I think it's the one called Moon Dance, I think it's called. I did say that I have like a backlog of different messages that I've received, and so I really kind of want to start to get them all out. I really feel that I need to clear all of that out first before I start to deliver new messages. So I'm just basically going through them. Today's message is about forgiveness, and the interesting thing that happened was that I received a message about forgiveness. So it was a particularly deep meditation, although they're always particularly deep when I get these messages. But yes, it was a very deep meditation, very powerful, and a few messages were delivered throughout that. But, the one that I wanted to talk about first was forgiveness. And what was interesting was that not too long after I had received that message, there was a very real example of that actually in there. And I don't know for my viewers overseas, I know I have a few in the US and the UK and Germany and Brazil now apparently as well. We had a bishop here, in case I don't know if the news traveled or not, but his name is Mari Emmanuel, an Orthodox Christian, and he was stabbed during a live stream sermon. He was stabbed by a 15-year-old young radical boy. And the fascinating thing was that, while he was lying there on the floor and, the parishioners were holding back this boy, while he was lying there, he was actually praying for the boy. And he then released a short video, which I'd encourage anyone, for whom this resonates, to watch. It's a beautiful, beautiful, powerful video. And I feel like I have to say before I forget. So I do also have ADHD. So if something comes into my mind, I have to say it in that moment, because I may just jump to 1,000 things from here to the end of this video. The power of forgiveness is what I want to say. It's so paradoxical because it seems like a meek thing, doesn't it, to forgive someone? But there's so much power in forgiveness. And the way he expresses it is so powerful. I'm not going to try and repeat what he said. Just go and watch it. But it's so beautifully articulated. And he was still praying for this boy. And so that was not too long after I had received this message. So it really, really resonated, actually. And so what I want to say is that for a lot of people either talk about, or whether they use the words or not in their actions, they do, prescribe to this eye for an eye idea, an eye for an eye, which is, obviously it's a biblical term, but it is something that a lot of people use, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. And there's a lot to this, so it's always difficult for me to know exactly in what order to say these things, because it's not really a linear thing. But okay, so an eye for an eye does not just exist in in the physical realm, in the 3D realm. You know, yes, it can be as simple as, you know, for example, in gang warfare, that's just the first thing that's come to mind. You know, you kill one of ours, we're going to kill one of yours, okay? But an eye for an eye, what I didn't realize until I started working on cases, and if that interests you after this story, please feel free to contact me. So my website is www.moonheartreadings.com.au. So I'm just going to talk about the very first case I ever worked on, actually, and I've had many since then, but I'll talk about the first one. And again, you know, it's interesting because people sort of really talk about how important it is to be powerful, and, you know, you can never have self-doubt. And I just want to take a moment to say that last night I watched the documentary of Moses, actually, and I was really, really inspired, actually, by how many moments of self-doubt he had. You know, even with how he struggled with articulating things. He wasn't the best at articulating things. And when God asked him to go and speak to Pharaoh, he said to God, okay, but I want to bring my brother Aaron with me because he articulates things better than I do. You know, he wasn't very silver-tongued, very smooth-tongued. He wasn't. And that actually made me feel a lot better. He had so many moments of doubt where he was like, I don't think I'm the man for the job. I'm not sure why you picked me. And it did remind me of a particular dream I had with Archangel Michael, actually. And he said to me, because I used to ask him a lot, why do you love me so much? You're always helping me and doing all these things for me. And, you know, why do you love me so much? And he told me in a dream, actually, one night, when somebody loves you, don't ask why. Yeah, I thought that was really beautiful. So somebody may need to hear that, actually. But anyway, he did have a lot of self-doubt. And so I feel a little bit better about myself because I still have self-doubt. So, you know, even recently I did, so a friend of mine lost her brother. And she asked me to do, could I, you know, cross over and, could I talk to him on the other side? And I still always have that little bit of doubt. I said, look, I don't know if I'm a medium. I'm not sure. I feel like that might be somebody else's department, but I can try. You know? And I did try, and it was, you know, it was incredible. And the resonance, the information that I was able to learn from, you know, somebody who I'd never met, actually. I'd never met her brother. And, you know, it was far beyond the point of coincidence, just far too many things, and too exact. And so, you know, that little bit of doubt also enables me to every time feel the magic. So every time I work on a case, and they're all different, I have to admit, I always have that little bit of doubt that says, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm going to go in there with the purest of intentions. I'm going to give it my best. I will give it nothing but love, and I understand that, you know, I always ask for permission, by the way, first, before I do anything. Always ask for permission. Look at me, I didn't even mean to do that. Apparently, I'm praying right now. Yeah, so what was I saying? Yes, so every time it happens, it's like the first time all over again. Just this real childlike wonder I feel every time I have these experiences where something, you might say, miraculous happens. And it's because of that doubt. If I went in there thinking, I've got this, yeah, I got this, I know what I'm doing, yeah, and had no doubt whatsoever, then I also wouldn't have the payoff, which is the beauty of when it happens. I saw so much doubt in Moses' story, and I feel quite okay with having doubt throughout the journey. You know, it's a healthy level of doubt, a healthy level, yeah? And it sort of comes from this sense of not really doubting myself, but sort of, you know, just, is God going to say yes this time, you know? Because you don't always know what God is going to say yes to, yeah? But always understanding that as long as I'm completely transparent with the person, I'm not going to feel any guilt or shame, you know. So I did say that to her. I don't know, and I don't want you to invest too much in it at this point, please. But I will tell you I'm going to do my absolute best, and if I don't get anything, I can promise you I'm not going to make up stuff, you know. It reminds me of the time back in the day, I went to what was it, like a hypnotist show. And he grabbed a few people, and, you know, I was one of the people that he sort of grabbed, and I was like, I'm not hypnotized. Sorry, I'm just gonna go. You know, and there was that little moment where I thought, should I just kind of like pretend and go along with it? And I'm sure a lot of people do in these shows, but I was like, no, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm a terrible actress, so I'm just gonna go. But yes, I think it's all about transparency. Yeah. And so, anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent, and that's actually not written in my list of things I want to talk about, but that's just me. That's why I've written it this time, so I can get back to it. Okay, so an eye for an eye and the cycle. Yes, my case, how it happened. So what happened was that, you know, I had noticed for a while that I was able to go into the Akashic Records and gather information for people. And I was happy with that. I thought that was amazing. But then, you know, after a while, I started to think, I actually also want to be able to help people, you know, because it's okay to, you know, to be telling people that this happened in a past life to you, and that's why you're sort of repeating that pattern in this life. And, you know, that was fine, but I really just wanted to help people. I thought it's, you know, it's like a line from a movie, As Good as It Gets, where Jack Nicholson said, look, I'm drowning here and you're describing the water. You know, I didn't want to just describe the water. I kind of wanted to help purify it, or pull them out. And so I asked Archangel Michael if he could please say, look, I don't know what else I can do with this ability you've given me. Could you please send people my way who you think or you know I can help? And the very next day, I tell you no lie, the very next day, I had a phone call from someone, you know, someone I know, but she did tell me that there was a particular person who had been, you know, wreaking havoc on her life for, I can't even remember now because this was a couple of years ago, but I think it was 6 to 8 years anyway, you know, a long time frame. And it was to do with I'm just going to say a legal dispute, okay? And, you know, again, my first reaction was, I don't know, I'm not really sure what I can do. But because I remembered that I had asked Michael that the night before, and he didn't answer, by the way, that time. Sometimes he answered, but he didn't answer. So I was like, but I did remember that I'd asked him, and I thought it was very odd that the day after I've asked him that, somebody's just come with this really random request. And she said, I know, I'm just desperate, and I just, you know, I thought maybe you could help. So I said, okay, well, I'll give it a go. Look, I'll ask Michael tonight if, you know, we can intervene. But again, I had that feeling of doubt. You know, I'm not sure. You know, when you're discovering your superpowers, it's a lot of trial and error. And I think you need to do it many, 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 many times before you then have the confidence that, yeah, I can do this. So anyway, I did that night, and I asked, and Michael said, yes, we can help. It's going to take 8 sessions. And he told me that. And this far apart. Okay. So I kind of felt great because, you know, I knew that he wouldn't have said that if, you know, there was nothing that could be done. So I felt really good about it. But, you know, when I first started, I have to say there was so much resistance. So what I did basically, with Michael's assistance, I mediated between their two souls. And so it started out by going back. Sometimes you have to go back to the past before you can then move on into the future clearly, unobstructed. I want to say unobstructed. Okay. So what had happened was that I'm going to call her my client, in a past life had done something quite heinous to this woman. Okay. And so you might say she started the cycle. And what happened was I was shown that what she did was affected this other woman so much that she slowly, and it really is an incremental thing, and it's inconceivable, because if it's conceivable, then, I mean, if it's conceivable, then you wouldn't keep going in that direction, would you? So without being aware of it, it's just step by step, step by step, step by step, and she ended up, and this is figurative, you know, this one is not, it didn't really happen this way, but, I mean, the circumstances of the life were shown to me in detail, but then Michael basically showed that she ended up in a cave of demons, basically. So her soul became very dark, and it's, you know, that is the way it works, by the way. People don't realize it's happening. You know, it's kind of like I got an image of, you know, the anglerfish, how it's sort of, you know, there's that really bright light, and then things come towards the light and then get swallowed, you know. Be very careful with false light. But I'm digressing again. But anyway, what happened was her soul became dark. So you can have souls that are dark, and then there's varying degrees of darkness as well. And you can also have souls that are fragmented. But her soul became very dark, and she basically, this lifetime was all about revenge for her. And now, of course, her conscious self had no idea. My client's conscious self had no idea. But, you know, on the higher planes, this revenge story is being enacted. And as above, so below. You know, it's always going to trickle down to here. So the mediation had to be done up there. And, you know, initially, for the first few sessions, it really felt like an immovable object. So then the doubt came back in again. I didn't see anything sort of happening, but then eventually I did. I felt it. Every time she started to, which was basically what was happening, is her soul was acquiescing, was relenting, was yielding. Every time she would yield a bit more, I'd feel it. And then I finished the 8 sessions, and I thought, okay, that's all I can do. And then not long afterwards, I got a phone call from my client, and she said, I can't believe this. I've just had a phone call overnight from this woman who lives in a different continent, by the way. This woman who, you know, would not take my calls, would not speak to me, you know, the last 6 to 8 years. She rang me out of the blue and just said, do you know what? I want to make peace. I really want a peaceful resolution to this, you know, so we can all just put it behind us. And then it was settled. And to make it even more beautiful, not only do they now no longer have to cross paths, yeah, you know, they had a peaceful resolution, but even better than that, look what forgiveness did. My client ended up getting a lovely apartment from it, and her uncle, who was actually homeless on this continent, now has a home to live in. So, yeah, forgiveness is such a powerful thing. Sometimes not even just for the two of you, but for people around you as well. And so what I wanted to just touch on was how important forgiveness is, because if you keep doing the eye for an eye, the cycle will just continue and continue. And the thing is, you know, everything you do, not only will that person then, you know, potentially come back in another life and do to you or something similar, something of a similar magnitude, but the universe itself. So think of it as a triangle. You've got this person, right? The two of you, but then you've also got Source up there looking down on the pair of you, and Source sees everything, and not just the action. More importantly, I've said this before and I'm going to say it again, more importantly is the motivation. Yeah, they are like an x-ray. They see right through to you. Okay, so they will see your motivation. And revenge is a very, very low vibrational motivation. They kind of showed it to me as like there's a point system almost, where different motivations will either get you plus or minus points, okay? And I'm not explaining this in the best way. So I do just quickly want to say as well that interestingly, as my feeling power, I'm going to call it my feeling power, so my clairsentience has increased, and my clairvoyance, so the visions, as that's happened, and the clairaudience as well, like I do hear a lot of things in my ears, as that's increased, my linguistic abilities seem to have difficulty keeping up. That's a very interesting thing, because, you know, speaking of superpowers, I was always told that my superpower was my articulation, my communication skills. You know, since I was a little girl, people would comment on it. I was very early to talk, unusually early, and, you know, I'd always get full marks for speeches, never had difficulty commanding an audience with my words. And so it was an interesting thing that the more this, and I actually always thought my heart was my weakness. But as I started to realize that my heart was actually my strength, and then I started to get these visions. So when I'm on the Akashic plane doing these mediation sessions, it's really, I feel everything. But now it's not a weakness, it's a power. And I see things, they always show me things. And so what's happening now is my words, I don't feel as articulate as I used to. It always, oh, not always, but so often feels like there's like a little bit of a time delay, or like they just can't seem to, they can't really properly articulate what I'm feeling or what I'm seeing. So they've kind of taken a back seat. I'd be interested to know if that happens to anybody else. And initially I wasn't too excited about that, but I've accepted it, and that's fine. Anyway, yes, this point system. Yeah, so forgive me if I'm not saying this in the best way, but just go with the message, yeah. There are different points for different motivations, yeah. And so if revenge, on the one hand, is a really, really, really bad score, okay, you really lose a lot of points for that, I should say. On the other polarity, forgiveness is such a high vibrational frequency, and the rewards are huge, yeah. So please, please, please try to forgive as much as you can. If there is somebody who you feel you might possibly have past life beef with, who is making your life a living hell, and you're not quite sure how to, end the cycle or break the cycle, please feel free to reach out to me. That is what I do. All my cases are different, but I have, and I can truly say this, I have yet to work on a case where it hasn't been resolved. So I feel very blessed to be able to say that. Is there anything else I want to say? No, not really. Just be okay with self-doubt. Doesn't mean you don't love yourself. Doesn't mean you don't know how amazing you are. It just means that at the end of the day, you are still aware, as was Moses, that, it's God who calls the shots. And, sometimes he might say no. There was one case where I asked for permission and I was told, no, you're not allowed to work on this. But I was fine with it. Yeah, I didn't really want to work on it anyway. It was going to be a difficult one. But yeah, I will see you tomorrow, and I hope you're all well. And I feel like there's something I want to say, and it's going to hit me after I press stop, but that's the way it goes sometimes.